D'accord. There we go.
Morning, everyone. Such a pleasure to be back here in Newfoundland with Premier Furey, Minister Osborne, our great team as well, Joanne, Goody, and Yvonne, amongst others. An opportunity really to reconnect with so many friends out here, and quite frankly, talk about some of the challenges people are facing. One of the big challenges that people have been facing is the rising cost of living. We know that. That's why we were so pleased to be able to move forward last year and this year on our plan for affordable childcare right across the country. We were able to sign last year with Newfoundland and Labrador. You were one of the very first to do it. Understanding how important affordable childcare is in any times, not just to give kids the best start in life, not just to give moms and families better choices and options, but also to make sure that we're giving everyone the opportunity and nobody has to make a choice between career or family. And that's certainly what I heard from a number of parents here today. This opportunity and the choices that are afforded by affordable childcare have made a huge difference already. The exciting thing is this year Newfoundland and Labrador is able to bring the average price down from $25 a day to $15 a day, and by next year it'll be down to $10 a day for families right across the province, which is going to make a huge difference. But just this year families are saving on average about $5,000, which at a time where we know gas prices are high, groceries are expensive, that extra money is making a huge difference, and it's something that we know makes a real impact in people's lives. We know there's more to do, and I'm excited. Andrew was telling me about the pilot project they're launching for four-year-old kindergarten starting in September, which is also going to give more choices to parents and, quite frankly, take off some of the burdens on the early learning and childcare system. C'est toujours bon de voir de l'accès à des garderies de qualité abordables pour les familles à travers le pays, dans un moment où le coût de la vie est très cher, de pouvoir sauver des milliers de dollars par année pour des familles va faire une grosse différence, mais aussi l'investissement dans plus d'espace à travers le pays est en train de faire une différence réelle à un moment où on sait que les coûts de la vie, le coût de l'essence est très très cher. So this is an opportunity, obviously, to meet with Andrew as well, to not just talk about the great work we've done together on childcare, but talk about the fight against climate change, growing the economy, creating good green jobs for the future, and many other things. It's always a pleasure to be with you, Andrew, and I look forward to continue to work with you.
Absolutely. Well, we've certainly had a great relationship, a great partnership. It's what the Federation should be about, working together collaboratively during these trying times. We've done great things together in just 18 months, whether it's childcare, rate mitigation, or beyond, and I look forward to really a more fulsome discussion about some of the challenges we're facing, but more excitingly about how we can work together to tackle those challenges on behalf of Newfoundlanders and Labradorians, and indeed all Canadians. So welcome, sir. You're always welcome home.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll go to questions. Do you think that the British monarchy owes Indigenous people in Canada an apology for the legacy of residential schools?
I think one of the things that we're looking forward to welcoming the Prince and the Duchess today and over the next coming days is an opportunity for them to hear from and meet with all sorts of Canadians from different backgrounds, including Indigenous Canadians, to talk about the things that we continue to need to work on, including on reconciliation. Reconciliation has been a fundamental priority for this government for ever since we got elected, and there are many, many things that we all have to work on together, but we know it's not just about government and Indigenous people, it's about everyone doing their part, and that's certainly a reflection that everyone's going to be having. Okay. Je sais que c'est important de continuer à travailler sur la réconciliation. Évidemment, la réconciliation, c'est pas juste entre le gouvernement et les peuples autochtones, c'est une question d'assurer que tout le monde a son rôle à jouer, et j'ai bien hâte d'entendre et de voir que le prince et la duchesse vont être engagés au niveau de la réconciliation pendant cette visite.
Monsieur Trudeau, la famille royale n'est pas venue à Terre-Neuve depuis des années. Ils seront ici pendant 3 heures aujourd'hui. Est-ce que la monarchie a une place au Canada à Terre-Neuve ces jours-ci?
Je pense qu'on va voir à quel point il y a des gens qui sont très heureux de voir la famille royale, et je sais aussi que c'était très important pour la famille royale de pouvoir venir ici à Terre-Neuve, où effectivement ils n'étaient pas venus depuis très longtemps. On a des institutions fortes au Canada, on a une démocratie très forte, et à un moment où justement on voit la démocratie sous attaque littéralement en Ukraine, mais aussi des défis au niveau de nos institutions démocratiques à travers le monde. C'est un moment pour être très content qu'on ait un système très solide au Canada. Et pour être honnête, moi, mes plus grandes préoccupations, c'est le coût de la vie, les changements climatiques, des changements constitutionnels. Il n'y a pas énormément de gens qui m'en parlent régulièrement. I think obviously it's a good thing that their Royal Highnesses are here to visit today. It's been a while, as was pointed out, since the royal family came to visit Newfoundland and Labrador. So I know this will mean a lot to people here. In terms of our democratic institutions, I think Canadians are very proud to have one of the most strong, stable democracies in the world, and as we look at democracy literally under attack in Ukraine, as we look at challenges facing our democratic institutions around the world, I think we can be very pleased that we have such a stable system. And quite frankly, when I hear from Canadians about the things they're preoccupied about and the things they want their governments to work on, it's not about constitutional change. It's about making sure we're tackling the affordability crisis, making sure we're tackling climate change, making sure there's good jobs for the future, and those are the things that I'm going to stay focused on.
Speaking of climate change and green energy and the future of energy, Newfoundland has, as we know, massive resources, especially in terms of oil and gas, but wind now that we're looking at. How important is it for Canada to be an early adopter to use that energy? Say, like Egypt is making massive investments right now in hydrogen. So that's one way that we can transform that wind energy. How important is it, and what are you doing now to look at those investments now?
Well, actually, over the past 7 years as a government, we've been investing massive amounts in the transformation of our energy mix towards more renewables, towards new innovations. Hydrogen is something that we've done a lot of talking about. We've worked a lot with European countries right now who are looking very aggressively to shift away from the reliance on natural gas from Russia and oil from Russia. So this is something that we have already been making investments in that I think we need to accelerate as the world understands not just the imperative of climate change, but the imperative of being reliant on supply chains that sometimes originate in difficult parts of the world. The ability to build a stronger future is something that, quite frankly, to be honest, Newfoundlanders and Labradorians have always been part of. The expertise that has been developed here in the energy sector, yes, first in the conventional energy sector, but now in a tremendous enthusiasm for wind and renewals, is going to serve not just Newfoundland and Labrador in good stead, but the entire country in good stead as people here innovate and do the hard work that they've always done to bring solutions forward for everyone. Andrew, do you want to?
Yeah, sure. No, I mean, we've always said that Newfoundland and Labrador has the perfect position in this time of transition. We have the petroleum products, which we all know responsibly, recognizing climate change, that we have to transition away from. But we have an abundance of clean, renewable energy that can be a part of Canada's roadmap to net zero, but also the world. I mean, look, as the Prime Minister suggested, Germany and other European countries are betting large on hydrogen. We have the ability with our deep sea ports, our abundance of wind, although it's not blowing very much here today, and a workforce who's used to transitioning in that marine climate, that we are perfectly positioned right now to capitalize on this time of disruption in the energy markets. We can be the battery for the eastern seaboard through transmission. We can be a source of energy for Europe and with hydrogen, and we can continue to supply the green, clean hydroelectric capacity that we have been for years. So Newfoundland and Labrador is in a perfect position during this time of transition.
Prime Minister, I wanted to ask you about the applications by Sweden and Finland for membership in NATO and the threats of retaliation for that by Russia.
Obviously, as I've said a couple of times, Canada is an enthusiastic supporter of Finland and Sweden joining NATO. They've long been partners, not just economically, partners through the EU, but also military partners and security partners for many years, even though they haven't been members of NATO, not full members of NATO. The consequence of Russia's mistaken choice, of Putin's mistaken choice to invade Ukraine, are very clear. Countries realize that Russia is not a reliable partner or neighbor, and therefore Ukraine is standing up against Russia, and Finland and Sweden are choosing to join NATO. We enthusiastically support them. NATO is a defensive alliance to ensure that we are there to support each other. Yes, there's a moment of concern in terms of how long it takes before they get the full protections of Article 5, but we will continue to be as absolutely rapid as we can in terms of getting them on board.
When you were elected, you pledged to address the overrepresentation of Indigenous people in federal prisons. Half the women in federal prisons are Indigenous. How do you respond to your record on the issue, and what are you going to do about it?
We have made significant investments in reconciliation on a broad range of issues that has had an impact, but as you point out, there's much more to do. Recent reports have just been appalling in seeing the overrepresentation, particularly of Indigenous women in our criminal system. That's one of the reasons why we move forward on eliminating certain mandatory minimums, and that's a bill that's currently being debated at committee right now to make sure that we're changing the system. And as we know, mandatory minimums do lead to a overrepresentation of vulnerable and marginalized people in our criminal system. So this is one thing we're doing, but we know there's much more to do, and we will, because tackling systemic injustice, systemic discrimination, which is real, is a long, hard work that we are committed to.
Prime Minister, families who lost loved ones on Flight 752 say it's a slap in the face that Iran is being hosted for a friendly soccer game in BC. Why did your government grant the visas in order to make this happen?
This was a choice by Sport Canada, by Soccer Canada. I think it wasn't a very good idea to invite the Iranian soccer team here to Canada, but that's something that the organizers are going to have to explain.
Just wondering, are you meeting or have you already met, and what did you discuss?
We'll be meeting after this, so this is important to be here first, and then in between now and when the Royals arrive, we'll have a meeting. But
we're in ongoing communications very regularly. There are always issues to talk about, whether it's directly bilateral issues. I mean, we've worked very closely on muskrat and on energy issues over the past little while. But I have to say as well that around the Council of Federation table, when I sit down and talk to premiers, whether it's getting through COVID, whether it's investing in infrastructure, fighting climate change, or whether it's on childcare, Newfoundland and Labrador, and specifically Premier Furey, have been extraordinary in your alignment with our focus on the things that matter for Canadians, and on your leadership around the entire federation. I just will take this opportunity to say thank you once again for everything you're doing for Canada, not just for Newfoundland and Labrador.
Well, thanks. But I mean, the relationship speaks to itself. We've delivered in a big way in the last 18 months, whether it's through COVID or the rate mitigation plan or further on this child care agreement. And this is just the beginning. So there's still much to do. I mean, we all appreciate the cost of living as a source of stress and anxiety for every Canadian, not just Newfoundlanders and Labradorians. It'll be something we talk about, and it's something that every family is talking about right now. There are limited levers, but we need to look creatively about how we can manipulate those to try to provide relief to families who are in stress. And the child care deal is coming online at the exact time where it's hitting the pocketbooks of families. Before the agreement with the federal government, we guaranteed $25 a day. Because of the agreement, and what by any standard is a rapid fashion to develop these agreements, we were able to get it down to $15 a day and now $10 a day starting in the new year, with pre-K coming in September. So, I mean, the results of a collaborative approach, which I ran on, we've delivered on, I think speak for themselves, and this is just us getting started.
Excellent.
Croyez-vous que Baie du Nord sera le dernier dernier méga projet extra-côtier à Terre-Neuve?
On a mis des conditions rigoureuses là-dessus. Je sais qu'au fur et à mesure que les années avancent, que la lutte contre les changements climatiques devient encore plus important, ça va être de plus en plus difficile pour des nouveaux projets de rencontrer des critères auxquels les Canadiens s'attendent pour ça. Mais on sait aussi qu'il y a des gens extrêmement innovateurs dans leurs solutions et le plus on peut réduire notre dépendance sur le pétrole, mais aussi réduire les émissions par baril, où la baie du Nord est déjà à beaucoup d'avance sur les autres projets partout au Canada. On va évaluer chaque projet selon ce qu'ils font, mais on sait qu'on doit faire cette transformation de notre mix énergétique.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you. We know that we need to go ever faster on the transformation of our energy mix. We put severe and significant conditions on the Bay du Nord project that have to be met. Other projects can apply, but they're going to have to meet similar or even more stringent conditions as the years go on. We know what we're seeing with Europe, what we're seeing around the world is a need to transform our energy mix to remove the carbon emissions from it, and that's the direction we're going in, not backwards. Merci beaucoup.